The longest answer was I had tried to do carnivore twice about, the last 7 years. What I noticed was, um, even though people were having success, there was like 2 to 5 years, people were having a lot of problems.
Mm,
So I found that very disturbing. That
mm,
title really drew me in. And, she said that, you can't eat the stuff for 2 years, not even a teaspoon of sugar or starch. And so that really resonated with me because of my own experience. I hope you hear the underlying message that I am so grateful, like so, so, so grateful. And that this has
mm.
been transformative. This has changed my life for the better.
Well, thank you so much for jumping on and taking the time today. I just wanted to catch up with you and connect with you and see how your experience was going through the program.
So the longest answer was I had tried to do carnivore twice about, the last 7 years. Once, probably about 7 years ago, then about 4 years ago. And then I kind of fell back into it in April of last year. So I was, more successful, sort of. And I was involved with some of the online groups, Kelly Hogan, um,
Mm,
Steak and Butter Gal, and Anthony Shafee, in that order sequentially. And what I noticed was, um, even though people were having success, there was like 2 to 5 years, people were having a lot of problems.
mm,
So I found that very disturbing.
mm,
And I was telling my husband that, I think this is the right track, but I think there's something missing, you know?
mm.
So I guess just through the videos I've been through, the algorithm, through, because I'm not like a homesteader or anything, but I guess the YouTube algorithms threw up that first interview Malia did with the Homestead How, Carrie.
Yeah, with Gary, yeah, yeah.
And I can't remember what it was titled. Something, oh, about not cheating on carnivore. How important it is not to cheat on.
Yeah. No cheating, and then it was like microbiome, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and just because of my own personal history, even prior to that, knowing how hard it is to stay 100% on track, that
Mm,
title really drew me in. And she talked. She said that you can't eat the stuff for 2 years, not even a teaspoon of sugar or starch. And so that really resonated with me because of my own experience. And then it's like 2 years, and I found that intriguing. And then she said something about how the microbiome affects your thought processes, even
mm,
your dreams. And that was because of the way that I had kind of come through my food journey with food abstinence, I definitely understood about food dreams, you know, because
yeah.
I've had them for off and on for years whenever I've been abstinent. And
Mm,
then she actually talked about also just how it can actually affect our relationships with other people. That if our microbiomes are really different, they might feel threatened. And I have had, I have Asperger's. And
mm.
I always have felt like, whatever difficulties I have with the relationships has been my fault. Right. And it was like, maybe it's not all my fault. Maybe it's the microbiome too.
Yeah.
And I found that so intriguing. And so
Mm.
I think she said the name Integrative Health Foundation, and it was actually really hard to find you on that just on that search. It's like y'all are buried. Is that purposeful?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I found other integrative health things, and they weren't y'all.
Okay, yeah.
So I had to like go back and listen and say, what is it really? So I found y'all, and then I think I did the questionnaire, and then of course y'all. I think I don't remember what month that was last year, but y'all weren't up yet, and so I just kind of kept consistently. Finally, I was getting a response from Jess, and so I just kind of kept every few weeks, and then she finally said, we're doing it. So I was like,
I
I want to do
remember.
it.
I think we had you on the wait list back then, and then
Yes,
we finally got you enrolled.
yes.
Oh, that's super interesting. Had you heard about sort of the microbiome, and did you have a basic level understanding of that, or did you know about the starches and sugars and about
Oh,
the die-off process and all that sort of thing?
um, we had read Ultra Processed People in October of 2023. I don't know if you've heard of that book.
No,
Ultra.
I haven't. No.
Yeah, it's by a guy, a British doctor, Chris Van. Tolucan. It's a really, 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 really good book because
Mm.
it really talks about, I'm uh, 62. So, in 75, I was born in 62. 75 was in high fructose corn syrup came out.
Mhm.
So that was a big change. I don't know if you can imagine, but it's probably even before you were born. But that's when and it was it was quite a marked change. But then the over processed people, you understand how bad. I mean, that's like 40 years, whatever.
Mhm.
It's gotten so much worse, right?
Yeah.
Food has gotten so much worse. It's so much more chemical. It's so much more fake. So anyway, that was a big that got us into single ingredient food eating. You know, so and like I said, I'd kind of gone to carnivore stuff last summer. And I had prior from that, yes, I'd heard about the microbiome and I'd kind of blown it off. I did listen to it once and they talked about the 30 plant foods you're supposed to eat a week and all that stuff. And I actually tried that and it was just like, this is not working for me. So I kind of ignored it. But that was the other thing Malia said that really resonated. She said that the healthy microbiome want meat and fat.
Mm.
And I was already very committed to ketosis, even though I wasn't being able to stay in. And I don't know, it just resonated with me.
Mm.
So that
Mm.
was I didn't have a lot of information about the microbiome, but when she said that, that felt like the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was just
Amazing.
like very intrigued.
Could you tell me a little bit more about what your main symptoms were when you first enrolled into the program?
So I
Sort
would
of
say insomnia.
emotional and sort of
Yeah.
physical experience. Yeah.
I would say insomnia. Um, I don't even remember what I wrote down. I mean, now it's like, oh, my fingernails were chipping. I remember that
Mm.
was one of them. I mean, I didn't have things like tachycardia. Apparently, I had neuropathy, but I didn't know it
Mm.
because
Mm.
I was talking to Karen about not being able to hold up a cast iron skillet, and now I just can. And she said it's
Mm.
actually neuropathy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's now I can just. It's weird. Like one day I was just like, okay, I can hold it. So, oh, I had migraines. See, I half this stuff I've forgotten already.
Isn't it a beautiful thing that
I know.
you get better? You just kind of forget what it was like when you were sick.
So I definitely have had migraines for a really, really long time, maybe two
Mm.
decades. So
Wow.
I'm not getting those. I had
How
one,
often would you get the migraines?
it depended on my diet and,
Yeah.
before I went through my menopause, but I could get them up to several times a month
Wow.
to towards the end, because I was doing better with my diet and stuff. I would maybe once a month.
Mm.
Well,
Mm.
sometimes, a good month was where I only got one, but I could get.
Yeah.
There were enough, and there were times that were really, really bad where I'd have to basically come and lie down, and I just couldn't do anything.
Mm.
So, but yeah, I
And
forgot about that.
insomnia can be pretty, you know, a real struggle, hey, with insomnia. It can
And
really
that was
take energy from you through the day.
and that was years that I had that, and all the sleep is all the talk now, and I finally just said I'm not going to worry about it. I just can't worry about it. It's too stressful. So I
Mm.
just accepted if I was sleeping or not. But now, when I go to sleep, I pretty much go to sleep right away.
Mm.
And which I used to not. That was one of the big problems, and I will now. And used to like at the beginning of the program, after I started going to sleep right away, I would still wake up several times during the night, and sometimes have trouble going back to sleep. Now I wake up between 1 and 2 times a night,
Mm.
and if it's after 4, I might have 4 a.m. I might have trouble going back to sleep.
Yeah.
But if I just wake up one time between when I go to bed and 4, I think I just go back to sleep.
Amazing.
Isn't it?
And
It is
it's so
amazing.
good. It is so good. And so, just for reference, you've been in the program now, I think you're just over 3 months or coming up 3 months,
No, it would be 4.5 months.
or four and a
Yeah.
half months.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I started October 28th. I started the broth November 12th.
Got it. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Amazing.
just over 4 months on the broth. Yep.
So how did it feel once you started to feel those improvements? Like when were you starting to feel that, and was it sort of a noticeable shift
Oh,
in
yeah.
at a period of time? Or yeah.
Probably my other big symptom is kind of like my emotional state. You know, I have the sensitivity to light and sound, and I can get
Mm-hmm.
really stressed out. Not as bad as it used to be, but it's still there. It was still there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I could get really stressed out pretty easy. Really
Mm-hmm.
easy to unbalance me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was huge.
And so at what point did you sort of notice a shift with those things?
Really, now that we're talking about it, um, so mid December to January was really challenging for me. That's historically that was where I had a lot of things happen in my life, so I tend to go into a really deep funk during those every year, just almost like
Mm-hmm.
clockwork. But because I think because I was doing this, I also used my block therapy, which is kind of a fascial release technique. So I really upped that during that period, and because I was on this program, the way I was eating, it was much more effective, and it just so I was really just more focused on, yeah, I'm not really comfortable. I'm not really happy. I'm doing this program. I'm very committed, and I would just do the block therapy, and it would make me feel better. That's like for those 6 weeks, that was kind of what it was. And then
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. At the end of January, I was like, I guess I was like doing better. And then even though y'all haven't done phase 2 yet, I found the GAPS diet. I didn't realize this is kind of like a GAPS diet that we're
Yeah.
doing. It's a version of the
Yep.
GAPS diet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had been sneaking in the Bellwether 2A yogurt on occasion because I really wanted it. And I had actually talked about Karen, and she said that was okay. But I felt really guilty about it. And so I would only do it if I felt like I really had to have it. So at the end of the January, I kind of, it's just another weird algorithm thing on the YouTube, right? And I got to think about carnivore gaps. And it was
Mm.
like, I think it's like remove, rebuild, replace, or, it was like
Mhm.
17 minutes. And I was like, I need more fermented foods. So
Yeah.
that's kind of, I think I was communicating with Jess. It's like, what are we going to get phase 2 and what is phase 2? But I just went on and just, I think I got a GAPS book and I was just like, I'm going to start adding these fermented foods.
Yeah.
So I did it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, and
Yeah.
then,
No, that's good. That's good. We recommend the fermented foods to bring in when ready. Yeah, that's amazing.
so that then really took me to, I felt like it took me to another level, kind of where I'm kind of, it's kind of been like a really slow, steady up.
Yeah. So sort of a steady improvement with the obviously with the insomnia and things like that, and then the migraines you notice just have sort of faded away. You're just not getting the migraines anymore.
The migraines probably left first.
Mm,
The
mm,
migraines were probably the first big symptom. The
yeah.
insomnia started healing probably around the beginning of January.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I've noticed the energy and the emotional stabilization and just more of an intuitive balancing. Um, that's probably come in within the last month.
Mm, mm. And have you noticed, you mentioned connection with other people, and have you noticed a difference there?
Mm. With my husband,
Really
yeah,
amazing.
it is amazing because we've been married 27 years, and I mean, I love him dearly. I've loved him dearly from the moment we met, um, and I've just been realizing things about him that I didn't realize before. I didn't know
Really?
how emotional he was because he's a guy, he's a male,
Yep.
I just finally realized he really has a lot of emotions too,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
also how he expresses them. I didn't really understand. So,
Mm, mm.
and he's having. Oh, I guess that's what. Okay, if I would tell you one thing, because when I first went through I was 24. I fell into the 12-step program. I got sober, and then I got food abstinent. But the food abstinence I did, it was, you had 3 meals a day and it had meat and veggies basically. And I always thought, for 30 plus years that the reason I healed was because I cut out all the bad stuff and it was the vegetables. But now I understand it's because probably the first time in my life I was eating meat 3 times a day.
Mm.
Isn't that
Mm.
weird? So I misevaluated that.
Mm. Yeah,
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Yep,
And,
yep.
but in that, even in that experience, without the meat broth and everything, I had what I would call a really deep transformation and spiritual awakening, which kind of set me off on my journey. But now, with my husband going through me with this, I'm seeing that in him.
Wow.
Like I'm going through the same thing with him because it's at a kind of a deeper level now, but he is having a spiritual awakening.
Amazing.
And it's like he is like blossoming in a whole
Mm.
an emotional, mental, intuitive capacity. So I guess what the only thing so I'm really grateful for this program because I've been doing this for so many years and I couldn't get it right where I could stay abstinent and
Mm.
understanding about the microbiome. Now I understand why I couldn't and why I need to, right?
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
And I don't, I go way off on the ether, so I don't want to go too far off. But uh, the dream I would have for humanity is that we really are true to ourselves and we live in connection with the cosmos and we are just attuned and aligned and we trust that and that's where we are day to day, right? And then
Mm.
just let the flowering come out of that. And so what my life has taught me is that I know everybody will say something different, I know, but my experience is we have to have that physical foundation, we have to have that physical health and clarity and eating
Yeah.
appropriate nutrition.
Yeah.
And so, this kind of work that you're doing to try to help people figure out how to help people, it's one of the hardest things in the world, I think, to get people to change their diets.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's so profound.
Mm.
It is so profound. So I'm
Mm.
so grateful to you and the people that are working with you that this uh, this thing of knowledge. And I feel like sometimes in this particular program it's like the physical part is a bit diminished and maybe it's not, but that's kind of, I don't go to all the calls, but I just
Mm-hmm.
kind of, it's like that it's just not. And I just feel like that's my personal, that all the other stuff is great, but if you can't maintain that physical consistency, I just don't think in the long run people can get there. They may have a different experience, right?
Yeah.
They may
When you
have,
say physical consistency, what
mhm.
do you mean by that?
Like abstinence,
Mm.
like not having the sugar and starch, not
Yeah.
having a teaspoon of sugar and starch.
Yeah, yeah. Just the consistency required to stay on, to starve off those bacterial families in order to balance the gut and to get to that point where you find that balance.
And you experience it.
Yeah.
Like my husband is experiencing it, and I am watching him experience. He's never been abstinent in his life,
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
But now he's having this. We're in concert, but it's also a uh, second after what I had those so many years ago. And I don't know. I remember a long time talking to him about, because I had a friend who said you should teach people meditation, and I'm like, I told my husband, I said nobody would come to my classes because I would say like you need to not smoke, you need to not drink, you need to not eat all this crap. They wouldn't want to hear what I'm saying
Yeah, yeah.
at all. Nobody wants that message.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing about it, isn't it? It's the body's a very complex machine that we have, and we have this physical body, and then we have this mind, and then, hopefully we have a spiritual connection in some way. And I know when I was younger, I didn't have any connection. But for me, it was a process. And, with my lupus, I was it caused me, my nervous system was very on edge. I was very anxious. I couldn't understand why I was so anxious. I would even see a friend and my whole body would just like anxiety. And I became very good at masking it. And I just thought it was sort of maybe some sort of a social anxiety that I was trying to work through. And I was very big into personal development, still are. And I was just trying to figure that out. And it wasn't until I really started getting onto the diet and fixing my biology that everything started to calm down. And then I would go into random social situations where I used to be super uncomfortable, and just be absolutely grounded and calm. And, I didn't have an overactive mind or anything like that. And it's just amazing how some of those things that you may not even think about, as your experience of a human, is affected by what we consume. But it's not only what we consume, it's in terms of the physical food and things like that. That's a huge part of the program and very important. But as you know, we do, dive into all the limbic system and then all the lifestyle things like you're talking about there, including the meditation and just that the calming of the mind and the importance of calming of kind of that anxiety and that cortisol and adrenaline so that you can absorb the food and things like that, because that's such an important component of it as well, is to tie the two together. Otherwise, if you're in this sort of super anxious state all the time and a nervous state when you're eating the food and you don't do the calming exercises, then you're not going to absorb that nutrients as well. And it's going to take much longer to heal the gut lining and to heal the nervous system and turn the hormonal system and all that sort of stuff, So it really ties together. And as you know, there's a lot of different components to the program. May I ask, what was your experience with, there's a lot of practitioner calls and support and things like that. What was your sort of experience with the practitioners, and then sort of with the content that's drip fed every week? And then also, we have a community as well. And I think the communities are really, I've always, tried to nurture a really great community. I think that's a really important part of the healing process, is to have other people around you, supporting you and that sort of thing. How was that experience for you?
I agree because coming out of 12 steps, it's all about community. So, we used to go
Right.
to meetings. We used to go to meetings every day. Instead
Yeah,
of going to
yeah,
me
yeah.
every day. So
Yeah.
that it what y'all set up is quite a flavor, a modern flavor of that, with it being online and having the calls and stuff. So I think that's always helpful when you're trying to go against the stream, to have some people
Mhm.
around who are supporting. So I think that's really important, and I think y'all did a good job with that. The calls, it's just my way my schedule is, that the calls were not. I tried to hit more of them in the beginning, but then I just
Mm,
realized that they all kind of hit like the 8 o'clock. That was my time. The two
mm.
o'clock. That was my time. Even the 10:30. It's like I have something I do at those times, so I
Right.
had to shove those off to do that. And then I was like, hey, I'm not supposed to be stressed out. I'm supposed to be enjoying myself here. So I'm just going to do the replays because I just need to do it when I can do it, you know.
Yeah. Perfect.
And
Yeah.
so I think having the replays is huge.
Yeah.
Um, just does such a good job with the community, don't you think?
She's wonderful. She's
She's
a
like,
girlfriend.
I have worked with so many people in my life. She's amazing.
Yes,
She's like
she
one
is.
of the top 4 or 5 I've worked with.
Yeah.
I don't say that
Um,
lightly. No, I'm
we
serious.
love Jess. She's really is. She's such a foundational part of the program as well. The creation of
Yeah.
everything on the back end, the
Oh,
operation.
okay.
Absolute superstar. Yeah.
But I wouldn't have made it as far as I have in the program without her.
Mhm.
Because I had some bumps along the way. So
Yeah.
she was so great. I was so impressed with how she handled me
Mhm.
and how gracious and accepting she was,
Mm.
and allowed me to feel like I was welcome and I was part of the group, even though some of my opinions were different. And
Yeah.
I did look. She mentioned this in the chat, and I never kind of spoke directly. I do have my own spiritual things. I was raised Christian, and
Mm.
so some of that. stuff is from my own background where people were just very toxic Christians, you know what I'm saying? And that was
Mm.
my personal experience in my family. So I do have a little bit of like, so initially when I got on and everybody was talking about, quoting Bible verses and whatever, it's a little bit off putting to me. So,
Yeah.
I did share that with her and I noticed that it became much more equitable.
Mm, mm.
And honestly, that I'll just let you know that made me feel a lot better.
Ah, good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
No, I mean, there's a lot of different beliefs in the program with
yeah.
different people and some practitioners. Everyone's a little bit different in their belief system, and yeah, it's really important for us is just to be inclusive of everyone's belief. We're not definitive of one thing, and everyone has to be this or anything like that. So I'm really glad that you felt welcomed with that. And yeah, Jess is just yeah, she really is a really amazing individual. And I notice, been running this program for many years now, and people go through sort of these ups and downs because
Hmm.
we talk about it. The healing journey is not just
Hmm.
it's not just a straight line. It's a lot of
Hmm.
ups and downs and troughs and things like that. And I think we've got quite a few people in the program now, sort of that 4 week and 8 week,
Hmm.
8 week and 12 week die off.
Hmm.
And you can see people in the community like kind of going through that and people supporting each other. And some
Hmm.
people start to doubt things, and, "Oh, it's the right thing for me, Um, would you have any thoughts to speak to that? I mean, you've kind of gone through those ups and downs
Hmm.
now. You're really sort of coming out the other side of those die-offs. And would you have anything to say to somebody that might be going through that now?
Well, I think I have been the last, I don't know, if a week ago, 2 weeks or so, trying to tell people to hang in there.
Mm,
Hang in
mm,
there is worth it. It's really worth it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't, I just don't know if you can really convey, or maybe that's where I'm at right now. I don't know if I can really convey how much it's worth it. I think
Mm,
the last few calls I have, and I've just tried to tell people, I'm doing good and it's really worth it. Hang in there.
mm,
I mean, I don't know
yeah.
what, I don't know what else is someone, I really don't know what else I can really say, but you have to understand, Scott, I, I was very evangelical the first time I got abstinent in my 20s. So I spent probably 10 to 20 years trying to convert people
Yeah,
with
yeah.
very, very little success. So
Mm,
I kind of just dropped it.
yeah,
I just don't, I really had to go through a period where I just dropped it.
yeah.
So
I really love that. I really love that actually. And I think in my experience, I've been through my own journey as well, and I've now seen so many people go through it and that I have such conviction of it. And now we know down to the biological cellular level exactly what happens, and that's the things that we try to explain in the program. But there's a level of commitment that's required. And
yes.
I think, you might have seen me started posting in the community
Hmm.
the realizations.
Hmm.
It's kind of the epiphanies, the breakthroughs that people have.
Yeah.
There's a series of realizations that you go through on a recovery journey,
Hmm.
you know. And for myself, when I was going through on the diet, there are actually lots of information that I didn't have that we do have in the program. One of the reasons I created it, because it's like everyone should have this information. And so I would fall off and then I would get back on the horse and I
Hmm.
would fall off and I would get back on the horse.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until that point that I just had this full conviction and full commitment that I'm going to do this for myself. I am going to do this for myself, for my health, and I'm just going to stick to the process. I'm just going to go through the process. And I was lucky I had a couple of guides to take me through. So when I was, my arteries would hurt at some points, and I'd be leaching oxalates out of my arm, and I just, what is this? What's going on? But once I had the knowledge of like what's actually happening, okay, this is oxalates, a toxin releasing from your body. It's actually your body repairing. Then I understood. And it's that thing of knowledge is power that when I could understand what's coming out of my body, when I knew why my
Hmm.
arteries were hurting, it's my body healing. It's actually my body working for me. And I found it so much easier to go through those troughs. I would just try and find that place of presence and just experience it and just have that sort of optimism that there's another side to this. And when I get on the other side, it's going to be, a new day. And mm.
And I think I just say don't underestimate how valuable that information is.
Yeah.
It's only information, but it is
Hmm.
so, I don't know. I mean, that's really was the turning point for me was understanding that it's going to take 2 years for this stuff to die off.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yes.
you go out and you go out for a weekend, for whatever reason, you're not going to do yourself any favors.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can always come back. And I think I'll just speak to that again that,
Uh-huh.
like, you know, I think that's that point where you've got to have love for yourself and you can always come back. And there were times when I slipped off the diet and I ate some sugar, I ate some starch. Accidentally, somebody put some sugar in my tea when I went out or something like that. And I just learned and I didn't slip back to where I
Yeah,
was, you know. But I just developed this way of living, this way of life, where I just wouldn't have starch or sugar for a
yeah,
couple of years. I've just progressively got better. And even now I'm on the other side of that. I feel like now my health continues to get better. I'm 40 years old,
that's
and I
amazing.
have friends that are talking about getting a bit old and starting to use that sort of language. But I'm saying I feel like I'm getting younger every year because I think when you battle with a chronic health condition your whole life, and then sort of in your 30s you start to discover what real health is, you kind of forget what it was like to be a vibrant, energetic human
Oh,
that
yeah.
it doesn't have that anxiety that can emotionally connect with people at a deeper level and all those like wonderful experiences that I think that we can get disconnected from when the body's just dysregulated and out of balance. It's a different experience, isn't it?
Yeah. Very
So
different.
to the just to what you're saying there in terms of preaching to anyone else or trying to convert anyone else. I completely agree with you. And I think what I've experienced in my life is if you can be the example, then that's what makes the difference. And I think I've seen that even just with my close family and friends, that they've seen the new habits that I've developed, and then they've seen just my energy levels and the way I show up in life. And I think that's really the thing that helps people move the needle.
But
They go,
do you
oh,
ever,
what are they doing?
do you ever find, maybe it's different with your people, but with my people, I find, boy, it takes a long time.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And some people won't come around,
Yeah.
and some people will just do their own thing.
Yeah.
And I think that I think also the pain has to be, it has to be high enough. The pain
Yeah.
has to be high enough. Do you have to get to a point where you're like, actually, I want to do something about this, And that was sort of the point where I got to, and I was just like, I've got to figure this out, And it was,
Yeah.
and then you sort of go on the journey,
Yeah.
and you get on the journey. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Um, so, final question: what would you say to anybody that is sort of thinking about joining up, or maybe in the place where you were um, about joining the program? Is there any specific things that you think that they might be worth hearing? I know we've just talked about that, but
I might ask them a few more questions about where they're at.
mm, mm,
Um, and I would say that the nutritional information and the physical information is the best that I've ever encountered.
mm, mm,
And it's really valuable.
mm. Cool.
Yeah. That's what I would tell them.
Well, that's awesome. You're so vibrant. I really love your energy. Super nice to spend some time with you. And yeah, just thanks again so much for your contributions to the program. It's been a real pleasure having you through here. And yeah, I would love to keep in touch. If you ever felt like you wanted to connect, feel free to reach out to me. And of course, Jess would love to hear from you.
Okay. But listen,
Um,
I hope you hear the underlying message that I am so grateful, like so, so, so grateful. And that
mm,
this has been transformative. This has changed my life for the better. And you've done that by creating this. And
mm,
I just really, that's what I am holding. That's the primary experience I've had. And that's what I'm carrying
mm,
with me. And
mm.
I hope you really hear that. I
Yeah,
hope you
no,
hear that because
I do. I feel
I have no
it.
doubt how hard you work at this.
Yeah, yeah, no,
And
I really
everybody
appreciate
does.
that.
I have no doubt.
Everyone works very hard. The whole team works very hard, and everyone has a very, very big heart. And it's stories like yours that is like rocket fuel for us in terms of keeping at it, keeping the work going, and just trying to get the message out to those that need it. Because there's a lot of people out there that need it now. There's so many people with chronic health conditions. It's crazy.
If,
So sharing stories like these one of the huge catalysts, to really help people be motivated to make that change in their life.